Hello, and welcome to the third episode of The Survivor Nerd. My name is Jacob Imhoff, and today we're going to be going over episode 6 of season 47 of Survivor. So, I'll give the quick summary of this episode first. This is what some people call the Mergatory, which is Earn the Merge. So, they all got together at the challenge at the beginning of the episode, and they all got a message from the boat saying that drop your buffs, we're merged. But they're technically not merged. They're merged, like they're all on the beach together, but they don't have their buffs yet for the merged tribe, if that makes sense. So then they all go to the challenge and they find out that they'll do a schoolyard pick. They'll have captains, and then they schoolyard pick for their teams. And then whoever wins the first leg of that challenge then goes into an individual immunity challenge, and that's the only person that has completely earned the merge and got the merge buff. And the winner of that was actually Kyle, who is my favorite player, and I was rooting for him and literally yelling at the other players to drop the ball that they were competing with so Kyle could win, and he did, and I was very happy about that. So then we go back. Kyle's the only one that has the merge buff, but then also the team that won got just a bunch of different food because they don't really get much food on the island. So they got food, and that was kind of like a little feast that they had. And that was just really good for them to regain, just get some good food in their system, because you can't survive just on a little bit of coconut and coconut water every 2 days. So then after everyone was done eating and everyone was back at the camp, they started talking and scrambling and seeing who was going to be the first person to go home. So Kyle and Rome, they both had a conversation, and Rome then twisted Kyle's words so much, and then all that word got back to Kyle because Rome had went to all the people that he'd said. I know Kyle at one point talked about Sue and Carolyn and how they're a mother-daughter duo. And Rome Rome then went to them and said that Kyle is targeting you because you guys are such a big threat. So Kyle immediately got pissed off at Rome for that, and I don't blame him. That could be something that could end your game. So then Kyle immediately, everyone was at the water well with Kyle, and Kyle immediately cleared up everything that had happened. And everyone believed Kyle and just thought Rome was talking from nonsense. So we get back from the challenge, and everyone is on the island, and the plan is Rome, and everyone is saying we're voting for Rome, and everyone said the backup plan was going to be Andy, which that also makes sense. Andy's been more of a factor in these last 3 or 4 episodes, but still with that first day blow up that he had, some people are still a little tiptoeing around Andy a little bit. So Andy was going to be the backup option for everyone else besides Rome, because Rome obviously didn't know that he was going to be voted out. So he was going around to everyone on the tribe saying, it's Saul, and was he had this, the edit played this perfectly. They would cut to Rome, and he'd be going to Sam and saying the plan is Saul. And then they'd go to a confessional of him saying I got the tribe eating out the palm of my hand, and then it'd flip, and then the very next clip it'd be Teeny, Sam, and a few other people in a group, and say who you're voting for. Rome. Rome was getting played that whole time, and the edit made him showed that he thought that he was leading the tribe, and his ego's been really high this season. His ego was just as high just at that point. So then we go to tribal council, and Rome still thinks that his plan is going the way that he wants to. So then the first few votes get read out. Saul, Sam, and then it goes Rome, and they just flood in with Rome. And Rome got cut this episode, and I will be talking more about his downfall a little bit later in this episode. So now I'm going to be talking about my top 3 favorite players of the season so far, just out of the few things that I've seen. So my favorite player, I think I alluded to this, is Kyle. Because Kyle really reminds me of one of my favorite players of all time that was in a later season. His name was Keith. And Kyle kind of reminds me of Keith, kind of like that, kind of hillbilly, like farmer, like he acts like he doesn't know what he's doing, but he is a great strategic player and I could easily see him winning the game at any point. And seeing that he talked to Rome, like that was a little bit of a red flag at first, but he just wanted to get that social connection. But then once Rome started talking crap about him, he immediately jumped on that and like squashed everything with all those other people. And it really helped because Tiana, who is one of Kyle's closest allies, got told by Rome that Kyle was trying to target you and said that you were a big threat and that we need to get you out. And Tiana was like, no, I don't think, like, why would Kyle say that? That'd be blowing up his own game, and Kyle isn't like that. So once I saw him like at the water well and like clearing all that up, and the way that he explained like how like Rome was able to take those things and misconstrue them, that was a really good plus to Kyle's game. And I think Kyle could easily either win this game or definitely be like a later vote out, because I could see his challenge paralysis get him knocked out, because that's what happened last season with this guy named Hunter. He was a really strong player, and just him being so good at challenges, they were like, he didn't win immunity, he's got to go. My second favorite player kind of has the same issue with challenge threat is Sam. And we didn't see it really as much in this individual immunity, but Sam is just a bigger guy. He's a little he's younger than most of the people on the cast. He's 23, and he's built and just is in good physical shape. So I could also see his challenge his challenge threat go way up and just possibly get him kicked out of the game way too early. But as of right now, his social game is also really, really strong. Because it's him and Sierra. Those two were running the Yellow Tribe when they were on the same island together. And a knock against that, people started to see that, but they've started to hide it a lot better. And Sam has immediately shot that down when anyone has mentioned that they're a duo. And we didn't really see much of Sierra and Sam in this episode, which I think they're trying to hide the fact. I think they're also now trying to hide their relationship just to see if they eventually would come back and kind of take this game over. So, and Sam's just a really likable guy. I also he's had some great moments in this season, when he was talking to Andy and he had the idol in his pocket, but he was talking to Andy about how definitely one of the girls found that idol clue when Sam had it that whole time. And Sam also orchestrated that blindside against Annika last episode, and I applauded him for that as well, because he ended up voting with Andy instead of going with their alliance of Sierra, Sam, Annika, and Rachel. And then my third favorite player, it's kind of a toss-up. They're both from the Red Tribe. It's either Saul or Teeny. And the reason I like Saul so much is that he went through a bunch of stuff with Rome, and he's still here. Rome hated him, and Saul hated Rome. They were having a feud, but Saul is still here, and Saul was able to get Rome out and ultimately win that battle against Rome. So Saul has gotten somewhat of an edit, but not enough to where I see him possibly winning this game. I could see him getting to the final three, but being a 0-vote finalist, just because they haven't shown as much of him being as strategic, because he has been playing from the bottom on Lavo. So I don't know. I'd like to see where his game goes, because he's a little bit older. He's 42, which is the second oldest person on the Survivor cast this season, right behind Sue. But I would like to see how he does in challenges, because he's got that dad strength, and he's also just a more built dude. I'd like to see how he does in some of these maybe endurance challenges or balance challenges. I'd like to see where he does, because we didn't get to see him in that challenge last night because he lost in the first round. We got to see Sam and Kyle. Obviously, Kyle dominated. Sam didn't do as well, but I could easily see Sam kind of trying to play down his challenge threat also. Kyle was worried because he didn't have a vote this episode, so I understand why Kyle was trying to push that out right away. And then the other person that I mentioned was Teeny, and she just seems like a very good sociable player. She's not great in challenges, but she's also not terrible. Like, she got third last night in the individual part of that challenge. And I think she could have possibly won if she didn't lose. Like, she lost concentration for 1 second when she looked over at Sue to see how Sue was doing, and that split second of lost concentration allowed the ball to roll off of the post that they were holding. And she was doing well before that. So I think that she could ultimately like be a secret challenge threat and really like dominate the game in challenges later down the road if other people don't start to see that she can be a sneaky challenge threat. The main thing that I'd be worried about with her is more of like the strength and like strength kind of challenges with that, because they like you have Saul, Sam, and Kyle on this season as well, and they're also they're all three really strong like older dudes that have like done all that stuff before. So I'd like to see where Teenie goes in this game. I think she can get far, but I don't see her getting into the finals. I could see her being like getting out at fire at the final four, because eventually I could see her being like the hidden threat to win this game because she is so sociable and everyone likes her. So yeah, those are my top 3, technically 4 players on this season so far. Now I'm going to move on to what my favorite part of the episode was, which I talked about in a little bit, is the downfall of Rome. Because I talked about in my second episode of this, Survivor Nerd, I talked about how I didn't really care for Rome that much and how his ego was just getting way too big and how he was causing too much drama. Somehow he stayed. He had that extra vote, and Genevieve on the Red Tribe with Rome tipped him off that Keyshawn was was trying to get Rome out, and then they blindsided Keyshawn that same night. So Rome was able to stay by using his extra vote and his idol at his first 2 tribals that he went to. So he was here until the pre-merge, and I'm going to talk about that edit that they gave him, because I talked about it a little bit. That confessional from Rome was top tier, with him saying like he had the tribe eating out the palm of his hand, like, and just he was so high on himself. Like, he thought that he was running the game. He was like, if I can easily get like all these people on the tribe to like go with my plan, I don't see how I'm not winning this game. And he was so high on himself. He thought he was going to, like, at that moment, I think he thought he was going to win the game. Like, he was like that cocky of himself and high on himself. But the editing from that was great because, like I said, it cut from him telling someone to vote for Saul and then being like, yeah, we did that. And then it went to him, that confessional of him. They had like 3 or 4 clips of that confessional. And then it'd flip to like a small group of people saying like, it's Rome, right? And they were all like, yeah, it's Rome. Like, we're going to get Rome out. And then when they go to tribal council, Rome again is still like, he's an esports commentator, so he knows how to talk and like commentate over things. So he was like going on about how the game is going and like how some of these advantages weren't very good and just how he thought the game was going, and he was still high on himself thinking that Saul was going to go. And then when they go to voting, me and my mom love this show, so I texted my mom during this. I'm like, wow, they're showing all of the votes, because they showed everyone writing down their votes. So we knew that Rome was going home, and I kind of like that. I do and I don't. I want to know. I don't want to know sometimes when it is a blind side, but also when you know it's a blind side and you can like watch that person's face and then like slowly start to deteriorate and just be like, this is really happening right now. We got that with Annika, but with Rome, it was inevitable that he was going to get voted out at some point, because there were at least 2 people that were gunning for his position in Saul and Kyle, because Kyle was on a revenge trip after he found out that Rome was talking all that smack about him, and then Saul just didn't like Rome from the beginning because Rome is way too much. And I agree with Saul. Rome was a lot to deal with, even on the TV screen, so I can't even imagine like what he would have been like on that beach. So with a vote, I don't remember the voting, but I know I believe there were 4 votes that weren't Rome, and Rome ended up going home this season. So that episode. So bye, Rome. I'm glad you went because your ego was way too big and I probably couldn't handle yelling at the TV screen anymore. So thank you for listening or watching this episode of The Survivor Nerd. I'll see you next time I do an episode. See you later.